Hi again, everyone. This is Drew with Kobiton, the marketing manager. Again, I just want to thank everyone for joining our webinar today, Scaling Mobile App Quality with Limited Resources, Sink or Swim. We've gotten some more attendees in, and we'll go ahead and get started now. So with that, let me go ahead and introduce our first speakers, Frank Moyer and Mush Honda. Frank is the CTO of Kobiton, and Mush is the VP of Testing Services at KMS Technology. And with that, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Frank.
Thank you very much, Drew. I appreciate that. Before I get into a lot of the details, I wanted to look at the topic and talk about, how we can reach, how we could reach mobile testing utopia together, combining people and computing to maximize the efficiency. And so, sort of looking at it the opposite way of with limited resources, what would we do with virtually unlimited resources? And I break down the testing into a few different parts. And from a identification perspective, we would identify every path and every combination possible through all of our applications. And again, on all devices used by my users. We're focused on mobile, so we've got a factor into all the devices that users are testing and running the application on. I'd also look at the execution side. Every identified path, including while the system is under load and competing for system resources. So how can I execute everything that I've identified while I'm executing the test? And then on the verification side, I'd be able to verify all aspects of the application. So this includes functional response times, the performance of the app, user interface rendering, memory utilization, battery, CPU, network, all the security vulnerabilities. And on top of all that, be able to make sure that the app doesn't crash. And then finally, given that we do have some level of limited resources, be able to prioritize based on user coverage, so both devices and flows within the application, high risk functionality, and then functionality that's changed in the most recent release. So that's, if you look at everything that a tester has to do, and I'm sure I've missed some things, but that's what we as testers need to accomplish when we're going through tests. And right now, why can't we get there? Why can't we get to utopia? Well, we don't have limited resources. We have limits on those resources. And so, and what's happening right now in testing is that release cycles are shortening. So we're going from what used to be months to days to even hours now with continuous integration and continuous deployment. On top of that, the combinations of devices and operating systems are increasing at a phenomenal rate. There's so much fragmentation, especially in the Android market, and users are using a variety of devices. And as testers, we're being asked to validate the application across these different devices and OS versions. Obviously, as the mobile technology becomes more mature, the application complexity and what it's capable of doing is increasing, is on the rise as well. So that's putting additional pressure on us as testers to be able to test that as well. And we've got more applications, right? More money's getting put into mobile and within organizations. And when a company used to have one app, now they have 5. So all of that's pressuring us as testers to, and squeezing us into a position that we have to work with limited resources and meeting the demands of the business. A survey was conducted by the World Quality Report back in 2016-17, and I thought this was interesting to see what the focus areas for mobile app testing are today. And when you've got limited resources, you have to balance the different facets of testing. And I'm going to go into what Kobiton has done to help testers accomplish this. So you look at security as a high priority, efficiency or the performance of an application. About 44% of respondees said that that was a focus area for them. User interface and usability, 44% regression testing, 43%, portability, I'm not going to really touch on, but certification and functional testing, you know, all these are in the 30 to 40% range. There's a lot that needs to be done, and all of these are a focus area. But what we've also seen is when we've done surveys is that users or testers are not able to achieve all the demands that are placed on them with the limited resources. So what about, you know, and Mush is going to go into this, what about test automation? You know, why don't we use test automation more to accomplish these goals? And here are some of the reasons also in the same report. And I want to call out a few that I think since this report was written and Katalon has come along, that Katalon can help address a lot of these issues. So one, you know, top one was we don't have the right automation tools. Katalon goes a long way to making testing on mobile much easier. The challenge with test data and environment availability, and I think one of the exciting things that Katalon's done recently around the environment is not require that, and they can offload a lot of that environment execution from the tester and from the testing organization. Application functionality changes too frequently. Yeah, this is a common, and this is getting more and more common, where we just have constant new releases of an application. With something like when you're writing automation tools, you know, I was talking to a customer the other day. It's like, yeah, well, once I write my automation script in about 3 days, it's no longer valid. So with some of the capabilities that are happening right now with tools like Katalon, that reduces this or eliminates this issue. And then, you know, lack of stability of a test script. I think that Google right now they expect about 13% of their tests to fail when they execute their tests. It's just part of the process of testing, and that's going to, with tools like Katalon, get better and better because you can offload some of that flakiness in the tests from the organization into other providers. I want to go into a product that Kobiton is partnered with Katalon to launch called the Mobile Application Health Check. And this looks at a mobile application from different facets of testing and provides a comprehensive assessment of a mobile application. We use Katalon for the record and playback, and we couple that with real devices and verification from Kobiton. And we're there to augment the testing effort that's currently going on to help tests achieve more. So this is a summary report that shows what we found as far as crashes or user interface, and then the impact this has on the number of users. And one of the things that also came up in the report, that World Quality Report, was the difficulty of assessing the impact that an issue had in terms of market penetration on the devices. And as part of Health Check, we bring that closer to we actually bring it into the report. So we look at the flow and how we're leveraging Katalon. As a tester, the tester will execute a script. They'll do an exploratory test on a single real device. Once they've executed that script, Katalon will take that recorded script and store that off. The combination of Katalon and Kobiton, where Katalon can then play that test back across a multitude of Kobiton real devices, allows us to collect a lot of data of how the application is performing with a minimal amount of tester execution, right? They execute this exploratory test up front, we run it against 50 devices, and we can actually get deep results of how the application performed across those devices. And I'll go through a few of the sections of the Health Check report pretty quickly, just so you get a sense of what that looks like. We actually have all the devices that we ran against in the report, so you can see the output with the physical devices that we executed against. The first part of the report is a summary of any crashes that we found, or congratulations if we didn't find any crashes. Like I said earlier, we actually show the impact that 18.5% of the market was impacted on this one. And actually, this is a test that we actually downloaded an application and ran it. It wasn't for a customer. The screenshot of the actual each crash location, and then you can click to a full video pinpointing the actual crash and where it happened in the flow. And then finally, on the right-hand side, we have the application log with the crash position to help the developer isolate what was happening when the crash occurred. The health check has identified at least one crash on the top 20 most popular devices in 39% of the apps we've tested, which is amazing in and of itself. If we have a few hundred participants on this webinar, think about 100 of those, if you have mobile apps, have an app that you may or may not be aware is crashing right now, and we can identify it, we can recreate it. And if you're getting reviews that say the app keeps crashing, we can pretty well find it very quickly. The next section of the report is UI rendering. So it's common to have devices with different resolutions render differently, and a lot of testing goes into making sure that it renders correctly. We actually have some very efficient processes to verify that the app renders correctly across the multitude of devices that we run the health check against. And we can, again, like we did in the previous section, show the market impact, screenshots of the version, the correct version, and the version that has UI defects with the actual devices that are impacted. Similar, we have even better results as far as identifying UI issues. For the top 20 most popular devices, we're able to identify, we've found that there are significant UI issues. Where there's text that the user can't see, that is important to see in order to perform their function, 73% of the time. The next section is we do a full security scan of the application. We can identify, we look at over 60 potential security vulnerability security issues. We'll give you a summary of what it is, and instructions, we're there to help as well. Instructions on how to resolve that security issue. We've found about 76% of the apps we execute as some sort of vulnerability issue, whether it's trying to access the phone without asking for the user's permission, things like that are important as in this day and age to protect your application. The next section is to show the response time, and this gets me excited as far as being able to comb through and analyze a lot of data that it's difficult for any person to do. So this, as we go through and execute the test, we capture every event and the response time that it takes for the application in that step. We look at the average across all the devices. So, running against 50 devices, we'll be able to tell the average plus or minus one standard deviation. So, what does this generally look like from a step in your flow for all the users that are using your app? And then this is for a specific device. You can isolate the execution for a specific device. So in this case, there's one step here, which is the list the restaurants step that will allow you to identify where this device is causing problems and is above not only the one standard deviation, but it's taking 14 seconds to respond. And then finally, a full system metrics analysis, where we can look at the CPU, battery, networking, and memory utilized by the application as it's going through. We can do anomaly detection on different devices. Some things may be consuming more CPU on certain devices than other devices. and we give you forensic details of key system metrics. What this all does together is allows the tester to do more with less. And when we look at machine learning and artificial intelligence and some of the things that we can put behind this to help the tester, we're partnering the tester with the machine to make a more efficient testing process and do more with less. We see this, with a big company, they can throw resources at it. And with small and medium-sized companies, it's not as easy. The resources are typically not there. So this is a good segue into Mush.
Yep. Thank you, Frank. That was awesome. So just piggybacking on what Frank just mentioned, guys, as a tester, one of the key things that I feel that I see with what Kobiton offers is not having to worry about all of the detailed analysis that are very critical in finding and doing things as part of testing, which is looking at all of the resources and then analyzing where the potential problems are. I think using the health check is great, where a lot of that insights are sort of provided to you. So having said that, let's quickly look at what Katalon is. I know Frank mentioned about how we could use that tool to be able to actually get results out of like the health check. All right, so essentially, if you for those of you who are not familiar with Katalon Studio, it is a free, simple tool to use. And it's essentially a very powerful automation solution for the testing teams. And as Frank was mentioning, right, the key segue here is the fact that this is a tool that can actually be a great time saver for smaller teams that are typically associated with a startup or are just beginning to explore automation, or also act as an enabler for larger enterprise-based automation teams. The product has a full feature set to support mobile on the iOS and Android platforms, as well as web applications, and also includes a lot of support for API tests. And essentially, it is all built leveraging the power of Selenium and Appium score engines and libraries. So nothing out of the ordinary. It's essentially a great time-saving tool where if you have a team that is ready to go and has decided on the underlying libraries being Selenium and Appium, which are typically the trending libraries of most testers, that's primarily what this is leveraging. The other great part about the tool is that it's very easy to download, install, and deploy. In essence, if you were to go and download Selenium's libraries, you would then have to also download another unit testing framework, any underlying IDEs, and so forth. What Katalon is enabling you to do is basically have all of the necessary frameworks, all of the integrations, the plugins, the ability to actually integrate with great tools like Kobiton, any of the CI/CD tools, etc. All are included as part of a single package that you can essentially download on your Windows machine, your Mac operating systems, or even Linux. The other great part is, with it being free, it's got a very, very active community of over 100,000 testers currently, and there are a lot of very different detailed guides, both through blog articles as well as video tutorials on YouTube. A lot of additional repositories where people have actually shared what keywords they've built, as well as people are offering Udemy courses, some free, some paid, and overall a lot of buzz around the tool, and a lot of great ideas being exchanged on through blogs and forums. So I would definitely encourage you guys to take a look at the tool itself. What I'm going to cover today talks about some of the key features that the current version of the application has. The current version is essentially a version 5.6.1, which was released this month. So some of the key updates that were part of this release this month was it has enhanced the capabilities and abilities for in-app support with an online help built right in the tool itself. You can now initiate a community-based chat from within Katalon Studio as well. And then it's also got a lot of good revisions on its user guides and talks in details with examples about how to implement some tricks and tips, as well as implementing strategies for different test executions and so forth. The other key part that's part of this latest release is also improved integration with Katalon Analytics, which is again a great analysis tool that's stored in the cloud, which allows the testers to analyze their automation test execution history and also look at how the tests have performed from its execution perspective. So it just gives you a good idea about, if failures occur, what is your typical runtimes and so forth and so on. The other aspect of this new version is also that there have been some significant performance improvements in the web recording or SPY utility, which essentially enables you to record your test scripts as you're actually doing any exploratory testing and so forth. And one of the key things that has been significantly improved in that is the reduced flakiness with how the different elements within the pages, especially on the UI aspects, are identified. So all in all, this now becomes a much more efficient tool, allowing the non-so-technical testers to be able to also get the advantage of adding automation to their suite of test executions. The next slide talks about why, as a tester, should I, try to adopt Katalon Studio and use automation, right? So simply, as I'm sure everybody is aware, as Frank was talking about earlier, right? The biggest shift and challenge that everybody faces, especially the testers, is how do I deliver with high confidence in the quality, and how do I make sure that I am looking at all of the business critical areas and having a good regression suite to make sure that everything is functioning as expected, right? One of the key things that this particular tool definitely allows you to do is it's got a good mix of support in its UI. It's quite simple actually, which it basically allows any of the newbies and the people who are new to automation to look at the scripts which will relate more to the traditional test steps, while it also supports what's considered as a scripting mode, where it allows the automation engineers to be able to look directly at the code. So when somebody who is not as technical and is just coming into the space of automation testing, there's this area called the manual mode, where the test cases appear just as the traditional test steps. And what it lets you do is it lets you build your test cases with drag and drop interactions, as well as recording your steps as you're going in and manually testing things. While the scripting mode, which is for the advanced automation engineers, it basically lets you dig deeper into coding, and then it's got abilities to support syntax highlighting, code suggestions, and ability to help with debugging and so forth. So all in all, it's sort of like an all-in-one solution. Like I was mentioning earlier, it's built on Selenium and Appium libraries. So as a user, you can start using this directly once you've downloaded it from the website, and you don't have to go in and import and install separate IDEs or any dependencies and build out a development project, install test frameworks or unit test frameworks before starting to use that. You download the application, you register it, and then you go start using and writing your first test case. The other part that I like personally about this particular tool is this is by far the only one which is got a continuous way of monthly releases. that are coming on for a free tool. And new features are constantly being added on. And the great part is the team behind this product is listening to what the community is saying about it and requesting for features. So there's a great way where people are actively looking at the different strategies that are being applied across the different teams, and any feedback that's being given to the product owner for Katalon. They're putting that into their backlog and releasing changes every month, which is really awesome. The other part also is Katalon analytics, right? That's something that is great because what it lets you do is it sort of almost takes your reporting of your test runs and things of that nature to the next level by centralizing all of that seamlessly. So you've got a lot of good BI style analytical information coming in with all of your runs. Moving on, so one of the things I do want to share with you guys is I've been given access to what's a new sort of a feature that's coming into the next release of this product, which should be coming in and be available for download next month. So it's like a new dynamic web engine. And what it is it's based on sort of like what I consider a pretty awesome algorithm that the team has defined. I consider it almost like a precursor to the next iteration of automation, which is leveraging machine learning. And what the team behind the Katalon has done is they've come up with this algorithm to help testers automate a UI test case on a desktop browser, right? So it uses Selenium libraries there, but the web engine is built in a way where now you can take the test case that you've built on a desktop browser and you can execute it on multiple mobile devices by going simultaneously into a solution such as Kobiton. And you don't necessarily have to modify the scripts or the objects that were recorded when you created that test case on the desktop browser. So what does this really mean for the tester, right? So first off, it's a great time saver, right? Where you don't have to go back and deal with the flakiness of tests, going back and re-identifying the different UI objects that are involved in the similar workflow on a mobile versus a desktop. It essentially allows you to have the ability to locate all of these web elements by clustering visualization. And then the tool itself, the engine, allows you to also preserve the relationship that an element has in its indicator within an item. And then as I was saying earlier, this definitely helps us reduce the effort spent on script maintenance. You'll definitely get a lot more information about this with the documentation as the release is made available for everyone to download. So definitely stay tuned. So for our purposes of a quick demo today, what I wanted to do was I wanted to sort of leverage a workflow that I believe every tester will definitely be very familiar with, right? So the workflow of reporting a defect. Right. So what I did was I've sort of created some test cases that consist of workflows that essentially allows a user to log into a Jira cloud instance and create a new ticket. And then as part of that check, the validation confirms that all of the necessary information is displaying within the browser, as well as validates the information potentially with an API that you can call to Jira directly, and then make sure that all of the information that was entered was actually saved correctly as well. So, in essence, what you can do is you can execute that particular test case in any desktop browser or on any mobile device, right? And what that becomes, or where that comes in to be very handy, is you could use a solution such as Kobiton, right? What with all of the 300 plus different devices that are offered, and you can have them run simultaneously on many devices, and then make use of all of the reports and the analysis that come out of its offerings, such as the health check. So I'll take a quick walkthrough of that in a demo and just show you real quickly what's happened. So what I have is I have the initial look of what Katalon Studio looks like, right? So you can see on the left-hand side, the Explorer area essentially allows me to create all of the different tests that are stored there. It's organized to also show you the object repositories that were created, and then you can create different test suites that contain one or more test cases. What I've also done on this is I've sort of created different profiles, which essentially allows you to see and set sort of like global variables. So that way you can use that as a profile when you're executing the different test cases. So I do have one test case that's open here on my screen, and in essence you can see I am under the manual mode, which was the mode as I was talking to everyone earlier about something that is available to the non-so-technical user. So you can see it looks like a very traditional test case, right? You've got a series of steps. You have this area called the inputs where you can also see and add information about what essentially is happening at every text or every step. And then, you could definitely put in a lot of information as you see fit for the descriptions to be able to explain what each of the steps does. This comes in very handy when somebody who's new to automation is trying to just, wrap their thoughts around what are the different things that must happen as you create an automation test script. The other aspect of this, as I was talking about earlier, was the script mode, right? So you can see when I switch from the manual mode to the script mode, this essentially is where you can see the exact same test case and see all of its behind the scenes code that can be generated. So as an advanced user, if I'm familiar with Groovy and its style code, I can definitely write my code directly over here as well. And it basically gives me a lot of abilities to debug and things of that nature over here. Another cool thing with this tool, though, is I am able to integrate all of this directly with service providers such as Kobiton, right? So what I do have in here is basically the ability to run this test case on any of the Kobiton devices. So from a sort of like a debug mode, what I can do here is I can actually select to run this particular test case on a Kobiton device. And if you click on that, what it allows you to do is it allows you to actually pick one of the many devices that are available with your account set up in Kobiton right here. So let me bring up the browser that actually shows you my account and my access on Kobiton. So right here you can see I have essentially logged into Kobiton, and when I'm logged in, I can see all of the devices that are currently online and available for me to use. And you can see I have a series of these sort of what I consider as favorite devices that I can use. So let me go ahead and essentially from this drop down, go ahead and pick one of these tablets. And once I hit OK, what you'll see happen is my scripts automatically launched, and the test case is essentially beginning to run now. And you can see at the bottom, I've got this log viewer that tells me that I am now connecting to Kobiton, and I'm executing the test case step by step in there. You can see it's running it at this point. I had already done a few runs earlier just as preparation for the demo, but you can see it's not running now, and the log will actually continue moving on. If I switch over to the Kobiton page, you can see if I go into my sessions, and if you see what's happening right now, is you can see the test case that I had initiated is actually executing now. And this sort of just shows you one way of being able to, leverage multiple devices that Kobiton offers and have them run. So you can see it's actually running all of those. So it's already completed about 5 steps here. This particular test case sort of goes into like 30 different steps, and it's essentially that workflow of creating a defect report in Jira. The cool part about all of this is once all of this is run, you can actually come back to your session on Kobiton, and if you click in that session, so the second row on the screen was something that I completed a few hours ago, the exact same test case. If you click into it, you can now see the details about what the device was and what were some of the things that happened. So you could see, any of the HTTP commands that went in. You can see all of that information here. You can see each step took a screenshot, and it gave you essentially a time snap of how long it basically took to actually get that screen. So if there's any issues where there's a failure, you can easily come to that step and see what essentially happened there. So if I click on any of these, it basically will show that. In another cool thing over here that I personally like with Kobiton is all of the interactions that you have with the device is actually created into a video. So just to save some bandwidth, I'm not going to play this, but I did download an earlier run already. But you can see that video. As you click it, it basically will go through all of the different things that you do. And as I'm sure you can see on the screen, what I did was I accessed the device, launched its browser, went to a particular website, and then enter in the necessary information and continue on. So if I, as this moves along, you can see I'm entering the script, actually entering the login and so forth. So it does a great job with allowing you to, be able to see all of the different activities that happen. This becomes very handy as you begin to test in spaces that are very compliant and require a lot of auditing to be able to support your need of all proof of testing. So the tools and features that Kobiton offers definitely is a great addition to be able to effectively allow that to occur as well. And then finally, one of the other things I definitely wanted to touch base on and show you guys was Katalon Analytics. So this was a project that I did over a few days ago. But in essence, I wanted to show you guys an example where, over time, as you are executing the different test cases, the Katalon Analytics page allows you to get a good comparison of, how many test cases passed and failed. So, for example, if you look at execution number 21, you can see at that point, I had 3 failed test cases and only 1 test case passed. And then at the same time, for that same execution or run, looking at the performance aspect of the test case also, it took about 17 minutes to run all of those 4 test cases. So what analytics allows you to do is actually get into that particular run and see its details more granularly. So you could see that particular test had 3 test cases here. That's what the data was for it particularly, and gives you a lot of good analytical information. Of course, what is happening is it's currently in beta, and we're gathering feedback. So obviously, as people use Katalon and give feedback on what they would like to see, the features that may get implemented within analytics will change as well. So I just wanted to do a quick run through of this and show you all of this great information. Just going across using Kobiton and Katalon, how you can see a lot of good data, as well as speed up the entire process of testing, which is definitely key.
Okay, so it looks like our first question is from Deddy, and it reads, on application health check, who writes the test case or the test scenario? Is it Kobiton with Katalon or a business user, which is our own tester / QA person?
Yeah, so we can handle both. We can have the business user, the business tester, actually execute the initial test, and then Kobiton and Katalon can take it from there to execute against the other devices. That is one way. The other way is we can complement that with an exploratory test from one of our testers.
So we have another question here from Daddy. This is a great one. Um, application health check to 20 devices, is that customizable?
Yes, we have over 300 devices that we can execute against, and we know that we have the statistics on the device, so really we can work with you to figure out what level of coverage you want to achieve and figure out which devices best meet your needs. We can do 20, we usually run on between 20 and 50.
Mush, looks like this one is for you here with regards to Katalon. Is it possible to build an automation framework, including data-driven, process-driven, and at the end have a good report that can be used to showcase to the stakeholders on top of Katalon easily?
So if I'm understanding the question correctly, right? Katalon itself is a framework, sort of like a solution that's all ready to go out of the box, right? It uses the libraries of Selenium and Appium. So you could technically just write your test cases in here and using its capabilities and integration with Kobiton, be able to show all of your run history and all of that very clearly without any issues.
We have another question from Roscoe. Mush. Is your Katalon project available in GitHub for us to review?
The source code is not. This is a free tool. So it's not something that we share the source code with, but it's definitely free. It's going to be free, and like I was saying earlier, there's over 100,000 active users for it. So you can definitely check out the forums and see what other people are saying and talking about it.
And this looks like it's for you, Frank. How do you differentiate Kobiton from Xamarin Test Cloud?
Yeah, it's a great question. There are a few companies in the space that Kobiton operates, and Xamarin is one of them. One of the unique capability, or a few of the unique capabilities of Kobiton is that you can actually work with devices held in your hand, connected to a local machine that is connected to also you can use public devices that we host. You can also set up private devices, and all that is available seamlessly through the Kobiton interface. The price point is another factor that we come out ahead. And then finally, the health check component, which is a full end-to-end assessment of an application, we bring that together in one easy-to-use interface, so you can not have to comb through all of the different sides of Xamarin.
This next question is from Cecilia. So in the demo, the app under test is a website. I'd love to see a demo on a native Android app or hybrid Android app. Mush, will something like that be available in the future?
We can definitely do more demos on it. What I would also advise is if you take a look at all of the YouTube channels, and if you head over to katalon.com, there's a lot of user-based community videos that are already there. The website also has a lot of great question and answers and how-tos with a lot of videos. I am pretty certain that there's both iOS and Android related examples built in already.
Awesome. Okay, and this next one is from Wee Mang again. Is data-driven testing possible with Kobiton?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And the short answer is absolutely, right? I mean, the tool itself is using all of that keyword driven as well as the data driven. So it's a hybrid, and it can support the variable usage both at the global as well as the local levels. All of that is easily doable in here within the tool itself. And because the tool can be integrated well with Kobiton, all of those capabilities can easily be recreated using Kobiton as the end execution area.
What are the best practices around health check frequency?
Yeah, so we have our clients typically will do this every 1 to 2 releases. So after a release is ready to go out, we will run a health check prior to it going out into production.
This one looks like it's from Jasdeep, and it's for you, Mush. So what would be the easiest / preferred way to get his team to learn Katalon Studio?
I would say the two things that I would use for my teams in the past that have definitely worked very well. The first one is head over to the website and look at their YouTube channel. There's a series of what's considered as the champions of Katalon that are putting up a lot of great content for people to adopt. The other great part with this tool is that actually, as you download it, it comes with a sample project pre-installed. So you can actually get in there, play around with it, and the testers can actually get a good feel for all of it. And then the third option I would say is there's also a lot of free classes on udemy.com. Simply search for Katalon and you'll see a lot of good content that's available and acts as a great sort of motivator as well as a jump starter to get people hands-on with automation. From my experience, what I've seen is people, as early as 3 to 4 days are pretty proficient with adopting and using Katalon for testing.
Are Kobiton devices dedicated or do they have to be reserved, Frank?
Yeah, so they're the public devices within Kobiton are available if they're available and they're not currently in use, you can run tests against them. You can also use Kobiton for dedicated devices that are dedicated to you, and you can either do that through connecting it to your own laptop, or if you want to have a private set of devices for your organization, you can do that on site at your location, or we can host those for you. So those would be dedicated to you and can run your tests whenever you like to. Nobody else will be using those devices.
Great. Here's another good question, this time from Heather. Can Kobiton run tests in a specific order?
Yeah, and so Mush, maybe you could take that from a Katalon perspective, and then I'll answer it from an Appium perspective.
Yep, absolutely. So the best way to do that is where you create these test suites, where you have your test suite defined with the order of the test cases that you want to run. And within each of those suites, you can also define which particular device you want those run on, what particular browser, and so forth. So you can definitely leverage that setup to be able to say, here's the order of the test cases that they need to be executed in. And then also you use information from one test case over to the other one through the use of global or local variable.
Yeah, so on the Appium side, you can order your test execution similar to the way that you do it with Katalon. So if you're using just pure Appium for test automation, you can order the scripts based on the essentially the harness that the test is executing.
How do you recommend bypassing two-factor authentication for both Katalon and Kobiton?
Yeah, so I can take the first part of that. We have a few customers who are using two-factor authentication, and that can actually be done via scripting in your test case. So you can, we are connected to, our devices are connected to the network, so they have cellular access and they can handle two-factor authentication. It's one of the benefits of working direct with real devices that are connected to a wireless carrier.
No, I think it's the exact same thing. It's the ordering of the scripts, and like Frank was mentioning, the ability and access to a real device helps you overcome all of those hurdles that you typically see with emulators and so forth.
Great. Another good one from Heather here. Is every test execution on every device recorded for review?
Yes, you have access to full video of every test execution on every device, the full log files from the device of what was happening. So your developers love it because you can get into forensic level of an analysis when there's an issue.
Is the health check assessment available on mobile apps?
Yes, we do it on mobile apps as well as browsers.
Is it possible to run tests in Katalon automatically, i.e. that all tests would run over the night or over the weekend?
Absolutely. So the tool itself has integration that you could do with your CI/CD servers, so any of your CI plugins and all of that, Jenkins, for example. It does support even like command line ones. So even if you don't use, say, a build server, for example, you could use something as basic as a Windows scheduler or a cron job, and have your test suite executed either at a scheduled run, so like say, for example, every 4 hours, or have it tied to a build process and have it auto kicked off. The great part with combining a tool like Katalon with Kobiton would be able to, have that ability to kick it off on demand without somebody manually doing it, because sort of we did it only for demo purposes, but definitely fits the need and adheres to sort of like the DevOps principles that all of us are used to now.
Are there known issues regarding uploading test runs to Kobiton when behind a company firewall?
Yeah, so that's we have quite a few of our customers that will connect to their back-end servers in a variety of ways. You can either set up a tunnel directly from Kobiton into your back-end. Sometimes security teams don't favor that approach, and we work with the security team to set up a VPN access from the Kobiton environment into the customer's environment.
Okay, everyone. Well, that wraps up our time for questions right now. If your question was not answered, please feel free to send it to info@kobiton.com. Even if it's regarding Katalon, we can forward it along to the Katalon team in Mush and hopefully get those answered for you within a quick turnaround. Just want to say thanks again for joining the webinar. We definitely appreciate y'all being on this, and we hope to see you on the next one. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Frank. Thanks, Mush.
Thank you, Drew.
Thank you.